In this video, we are going to take a look at E2B's Code Interpreter for AI apps, which is really cool because it's very easy to install and use. And these are secure sandboxes in the cloud that you can connect to, and that's for AI-generated code execution. We will actually take a look at an example where we use Claude as an agent, continuously conversating with it and executing code. We will be able to draw plots and save them to our computer, also keep track of the message history as well using E2B's code interpreter. So there's a pricing element to it, but actually the hobby tier, which is free, actually gives you $100 of usage and credits. And that is quite a lot. I actually been testing it maybe a few dozen times, and I only use like 7 cents off of it. So it's really practical to get going, at least for testing purposes. So let me show you how it works. When we run this, we are going to get a chat interface. We can actually conversate with the agent in a regular way, like we can just say hi and talk to it. There is no streaming responses available when we're using tool calling with Claude API. But here we go, we get a response. Now we can ask something like, please plot the top 10 GTPs in the world from your latest knowledge. And now it should call its tool, write some code, and its tool is actually Python execution function, which is going to run on the cloud. So no code is actually running on our computer, so it's safe and secure. Here we go. So we got response, tool use. We got to see the code. The code is written into a file on our computer, so we can examine it, reuse it later. So the code interpreter returns some results, but it's trying to retrieve some information from World Bank's API, and it actually got an error, but we were able to input the error into its memory. Let's ask it to try to fix it. Let's ask you to fix this error. You're not supposed to connect to an API, just plot it from what you know as latest. By the way, these code files will be available at my Patreon. The link will be in the description. When you become a patron, you'll have access to over 200 projects that I have worked on. Okay, this time, actually, it plotted itself. Of course, we are saving these code files to code response.py, and this is the resulting chart, as we can see. So, and if we go back to our message history, we can continuously interact with this agent. It will execute the code safe and sound in the cloud, and it is able to correct itself as well. And if we come back to the usage at E2B Docs, it seems like we've only used 1 cent worth of compute so far. To sign up for E2B, you do have to sign up and get an API key, and you will be passing it in through your code, of course. So this is how it works. Let's actually go ahead and review the code, because this is an interesting implementation. So let's review the code. The requirements for this is E2B Code Interpreter, Anthropic, term color, and Matplotlib. Okay, we're importing all our requirements, and we are setting our Anthropic API key and E2B API key from environment variables, or you can insert them right here in your script. We are using the Cloud Tree Opus, and the system prompt for this I got from E2B's example. So it is pretty much explaining, I believe the execution environment is a Jupyter notebook that is in the cloud. So it just explains all that. You can read through this. And our tools is a single tool, which is execute Python, which is to execute Python in the Jupyter notebook cell and returning the result, the terminal output or the error, right? So that's going to be our tool. And our code interpret function is going to take in the E2B code interpreter, and it's going to take in some code, and it's going to execute it. This takes place in the cloud. And then we're going to receive some results. And then if we have an error, we're going to print it. And then we're going to return the results, the terminal output, and the error. And otherwise, we're going to do the same. Now, there's a difference here between exec.error and exec.logs.error terminal output. Because if an error happens, it happens within the exec.error, but actually when a normal result comes out, it is under the logs. Yeah, so this works. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects as a patron. You will have access to all the code files, so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well. And then we initialize our Anthropic client here with the API key. We have a function that is going to take in the tool name, the interpreter, and tool input and call this function up here. if the tool name is execute function, which is our only tool. Now we have a function that is chat with Cloud. We initialize code interpreter results to none because this implementation can actually return regular chat results. It doesn't only have to be tool call. So we initially print the user message in the terminal, and then we append it to our messages. It's going to be an empty list, and here we are setting the parameters for the API call. We pass in the messages and tools, and then we print initial response, and we print the stop reason. So if we get a regular chat response, the stop reason is going to be end turn, or if Claude decides to use a tool, and it's going to be tool use. When we get a regular chat response, the message content is actually going to be quite long. Perhaps I can show this to you by running this in debug mode. Because the Claude performs, I'm just going to go ahead and say hi. Claude performs some thinking ahead of responding. That is the same both with a chat response and a tool response. So if we actually look at the message, maybe the content, as you can see, this is what is returned, a text block with thinking. And then so the thinking is returned between thinking XML tags, and then the rest of it is actually the response. So that's why we are actually splitting it right there using thinkings, because the thinking happens between the XML tags of thinking and the closing tag. After that, there's two new lines. I just had to kind of dig into it once so that we are only actually printing the response. So now we actually get the response printed right here. So, but there are other stuff that Claude returned, but that was its thinking process. It does this both for regular chat and tool use. So I just wanted to show you that. Let's go ahead and stop this. So that's what happens if it's a regular chat response. But when we get a tool use response, then we are going to, because it can return multiple tools, we are going to loop over each block, make sure that block type is tool use. Then we're going to get the tool use name. And then we're going to get the name, we're going to get the input. This input is what is going to go into the function, but that will be since we are dealing with a code interpreter, and our function definition is actually execute Python code, and the input to it is code, which is the Python code to execute. So this tool use input is actually going to be our Python code. It does have a code key in it. So that's why we are going to open code response.py and write it. So every time Claude returns some code, we can actually examine it. Maybe we want to reuse it. Then we print the tool name, tool input code to terminal. You may want to comment this out if you don't want to see it. Then we call the process tool call and get the code interpreter results, this terminal output and the terminal error message. That happens actually in the cloud, right? But then those are being returned to us. And now we print the code interpreter results, append it to the message history as assistant. That will be used this tool ID, tool name, and tool input. And then that is to let Claude know that these were what was returned. Sorry, this is what the code which was executed. And now we create a results to be returned string that is empty. And now we're going to actually check if we have a terminal output, an error output, and we're going to append to it by plus equals. So that we can actually here return it again as user role, tool result, tool use ID, and the content that is the result to be returned. So this way, if we run into any errors or there's an output like a print statement, we can actually pass it on to Claude. Now here I'm also adding an assistant message just saying I got the result from the tool, because since this is a continuous loop, right? The last message we append at the end of the call is a user message. And then if we continue, the user input is going to be another user message, and Anthropic's API currently doesn't accept the same role twice in a row or multiple times in a row. So that's why we are just injecting this so that it alternates from user to assistant. And now we open the message history, dump it into message history so we can observe what's going on in our messages, and return the code interpreter results. Here, it's going to be our kind of like our main loop, I suppose. We initialize a messages list, and then with code interpreter, and we initialize the API key as code interpreter. While true, we take in user input continuously, and then we chat with Claude with that user input. And if we have code interpreter results, we print it. And if we do so when the result is returned, we print the result to terminal, but the result can also include like bunch of other files like PDFs and PNGs, but the one that is probably most useful is PNG, meaning it's most likely a plot that you're dealing with. So in this case, we only check for that. If there's a PNG, we convert it to base 64 and then just save it to results.png, just as we've done here. If you want to explore other capabilities, maybe just know that the code interpreter can return other file formats. So this is pretty much how it works. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll put a link in the description for the E2B's website as well. And if you enjoy my content, feel free to subscribe or let me know what you think in the comments. And if you decide to become a patron, like I said, you'll have access to all the code files and to my 1000x developer course, 1000x masterclass. And the higher tiers also gives you a chance to set up meetings with me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects. As a patron, you will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well.